The biggest problem in business, as in our personal lives, is that we just don't know what we don't know. This is the Biz Reveal, and I am your host, Craig Sawyer. In this week's episode, we will be replaying some of our most important clips from the first season of the Biz Reveal. For our season finale, we will replay the highlights of each of the 16 episodes released in 2020. For the full episodes, please go to our podcast website at thebizreveal.com. or see all of our shows by subscribing to our YouTube page. And of course, all the episodes are always available on your favorite podcast app. This is the Biz Reveal with the best of 2020.
What are your business cards? Like, you got to have good business cards. Do not go cheap, okay? Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you give me a business card and I can make it talk, and that's to where I can make it bend and kind of be like, how you doing? You need to step up your paper.
So business cards are still relevant.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, majority of people, they take them, put them in their purse, their wallet, never hear them again. But what you don't realize and what they are subconsciously not realizing is when you hand them that business card and they feel that thick texture of it, and they automatically are like, oh, okay, they spent some
quality.
Right. And if you don't get a compliment on your business card, like let's say somebody says, man, this is not, if you don't, you need to get a new business card.
I'll be standing in a line somewhere and I'll see somebody and their head is at a 90, it's parallel with the floor. So at a 90 degree. And I think, oh my goodness, how many problems is that person going to have? Forget the neck pain and the headaches and the back pain. How is that affecting their heart, their thyroid,
sure.
Their lymph nodes, their eyesight? Because it's a strain. The optic nerves are being stretched away from the brain that way
because of the angle.
Because of the angle of the head. So I just wonder how many problems those people will have. Sinusitis and allergies and chronic stuffiness is real common with neck subluxations.
Really? And that's just because of the strain that it's putting on the natural shape of
the strain. But you start moving those bones out of place. Now think of the breaker box in your garage. Here we have them in the garage, but in Illinois we had them in the basement.
Right.
So you've got all of these breakers, and they're all lined up a certain way. And this one goes to the kitchen, this one goes to the stove, this one goes to the east wall, this one goes to the west wall, this one goes to the bathroom. They're labeled. Your spine is the same way. C1, C2, C3, down to C7, 12 vertebrae, 5 lumbar.
And then you see that one orange spot.
They're all labeled, and each vertebrae has a pair of nerve endings coming off the right and the left side, and they branch and become all of your nerves in your body. This is where they originate from the spinal cord. So if you start changing the position of the neck, you start putting pressure, not just on the muscular structures, but on the nerves themselves. Almost like swapping a breaker in your fuse box. You go in, the lights are out on the east wall of the kitchen. You go in, you find, oh yeah, look, it's not in line with the rest of them. It's over here. You flip it on, the lights go back on. Well, it's a very simplistic way to explain spinal nerve function and how chiropractic works, but pretty much this is how it works. Yeah.
Businesses have this idea of what they need to do when a hurricane is about to come, and businesses have an idea of what to do if there's a loss of power. So you need to have that same type of energy put forth to what happens if you have an employee that wants to go and share your proprietary information. What happens if you have an employee to steal some of your customer data, or somebody external to steal some of your customer data? So that type of business continuity has to play, especially now, because we are completely relying on digital and the internet, and everything is like, we want things to be simple on our end. We want our phone to know when we speak, like Amazon, send me an order of toilet paper,
right.
and it comes in the mail. But that convenience comes at a price too. It leaves us open to different issues that could come up. And so it's a matter of your business being properly prepared for it. And I think that a lot of business owners, because they don't have, especially if you're a small business owner and you don't have an IT department or you don't have a large IT department, you tend to overlook some of those little things. And just because you didn't have someone in place that works in technology, it doesn't mean that the state, it doesn't mean like the court, it doesn't mean like your customers aren't going to hold you liable.
And if you're somebody who wants to either pay 100% or pay a percentage, maybe put a stipend in their paychecks to help them pay for that coverage, that also helps you because that reduces your business expenses for those insurance benefits, right? And anywhere you can save money as a business owner is a good place to save, right? So you can look good in the eyes of your employees by providing them with benefits. It helps you out because you're getting it out of savings. And also when you provide, some private plans will provide additional benefits in their plans that are intended for small business owners, that are intended for independent contractors. So what I mean by that is one of the benefits that some of these plans offer is that it's portable. Their coverage is portable, right? So if you have employees and you go out and get a group plan or an ACA type plan, they're tied to the employer, right? If you have a group plan, it's under the employer's name. And then you just have, like, say, your 10 employees or 20 employees or whatever the case is that kind of branch off of that one central person or central business. So if that employee were to leave, they're no longer on that plan at all because the employer is no longer their employer, and that's who owns the plan. Some of these private plans, they're individualized, right? They're not group plans. It's individual for the specific person who got it. So if somebody, an employee of yours or an independent contractor that works for your company has one of these types of plans, you're not tied to their coverage at all, which means if they ever leave the company for whatever reason, makes no difference what reason, they can completely take their insurance with them, completely intact, and take it with them.
I myself have been a remote worker for many years, and it's taken some time to adjust to it, to figure out, what is the best way to work and how you can accomplish things from home in the way that you could have in an office. But once you sort of get your routine down and once you understand sort of what the boundaries are and that you have to set specific time to do certain tasks, it's incredibly fulfilling to be able to work in an environment where you're not spending hours and hours in your car, commuting back and forth, dealing with that stress. I've heard of so many people reporting stories, especially in, big cities where they're like, oh my gosh, I've gotten so much of my life back because I'm not spending all that time in a car commuting. But it's a challenge. But I think a lot of companies during COVID-19 have seen that, oh yeah, we can actually support a remote workforce. I think one of the challenges that managers have faced is that they're actually the bottleneck to a lot of remote work. It's not the employees themselves. And it's because managers oftentimes feel uncomfortable when they can't see people working because they don't trust that people are doing the work. And I think that's a terrible way to look at it, because if you don't trust somebody, why'd you hire them? There has to be some level of trust, whether they're in an office or whether they're at home. What I think it really takes is a clear definition of what someone is responsible for. What are the tasks that they are responsible for doing? When are they responsible for getting those done? And what is the level of acceptable work that they need to put in to make sure that the quality is there, when they finish a project? And if those things are in place, who really cares if they're working on it at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m? As long as they're using their time to get their jobs done, I don't think it matters so much. I think that there is too much of a focus in the business world about saying, okay, I'm paying you for 8 hours, so I want to see you for 8 hours, logged into a system or on chat or sitting at your desk or whatnot. I wish that we would move more towards a productivity model where we say, I'm paying you to get a certain job done, get it done. And then if that takes you 5 hours or if that takes you 8 or if that takes you 10, so be it.
somewhere along the line, you are going to have to forgive all the water under the bridge. And so I actually had to forgive her after she was gone.
Oh, that's even harder.
My point is, once I did that, the bitterness went away. But the great news is, I was always a glass half empty person myself until I started paying attention to my thought life. And again, well into like my early 40s, I never paid attention to my thought life. And then it wasn't working for me.
I think my biggest thing is not necessarily forgiving other people.
Okay.
I think, now we're digging. It's more internal and maybe not having forgiven myself for the things that I've done.
Okay.
I think it's probably where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? You can.
I know.
But
and I see some of these things. It's just, maybe it's easier to not deal with it.
So you know what? So just a little word, and you don't need to go into detail, but if it still bothers you, whoever you feel like you need to go to and say, hey, I screwed up, you know what? You'll be done.
What is culture? What is a company culture?
It's a personal, living, breathing entity within an organization.
It's like an emotion.
Exactly.
It's an emotion. It's the overall feeling and emotion of a company as a whole.
Yeah,
But it's like a personality trait. So cultures are very hard to create, but even harder to change. So if you have a company, and you see this all the time in corporate America, right, where there's a change in leadership.
Yes.
And when you have that change in leadership, especially if the company is on a failing trend, and the new leader is obviously put in that position for a reason to change that, to reverse it. But typically it's because of the culture that was created previously. Have you ever tried to change a personality trait? Like if you're like, I don't like how I react to that. I've always done that. I need to change that. Right. Have fun, because it is really difficult to change a personality trait, but that's exactly what the task is when you come into a company and try to change the culture. Right. You have to change the way that people feel and the way that people think. And it's not an easy task to do. It's
not. And then the flip side of that is that you will have, to carry on that analogy, is that you will have some leaders that will come into an organization. Organization may not be doing that bad, but they feel like there's a need for a change. And you may come in as a leader and you just want to try to upset the apple cart, and you just want to kind of change the culture completely based off your leadership. And this is what you think this organization may need. And in some cases, it's not. So guess what? The culture will trump your idea of what you thought was the best way to proceed, because it's so heavily embedded into each individual. And that's the other thing about organizations and cultures. And I was just doing a workshop the other day, and we were talking about like kind of diversity, inclusion, and all this, and some of these other things. And one of the things that I always start off with is that I don't necessarily believe in organizations in the classic sense. And what I mean by that is organization thought. Is because each organization is made up of individuals, period. Right. Like that's just it. And so I always tell them, like, whenever we're talking, wherever we're things I'm going to be discussing, please think about this from an individual standpoint, not right now from an organizational standpoint, because that gets in the way, because that's the culture, right? The culture piece gets in the way. And you start thinking everything off in that prism of the corporate culture. But if you start to think about things from a humanity standpoint or a human standpoint, that's where the change takes place. That's where the idea exchange becomes more robust and it becomes authentic, because now we're talking like two individuals. We're not talking from a corporate standpoint. But then guess what? Now when you go back into the organization, now you can kind of come together and ideally, the ideas that you generate will be a little bit more, I guess, robust. I hate overutilizing that word, but it will truly be kind of more transformative, because now everybody has something different that they want to bring to the table based off their own experiences. And that's like kind of the drive, or should be the ideal driving force when you start to think about even everything that's kind of going in the society today. It's like, how do you individually internalize it? And not look to anybody else to kind of define whatever it is that you're feeling.
If you're getting extremely fit, extremely specific, you could find times that might be better than others. But for the general public, general business owners, you just want to make sure you do it.
Okay. Doing it's more important than the
Doesn't
time.
matter when.
Right.
Just stop skipping it. One of the biggest things that I try to help people with as a personal trainer, with not just owners of businesses, but CEOs, people in charge of big stressful jobs, is to set it as an appointment. Figure out what will work for you and try a few days of each. So some people say there's absolutely no time whatsoever. So I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. I'm going to do my workout. Then I'll get the kids ready or get myself ready for work and head out. So that way I have time. But some people don't find that sustainable. You can do it once, but then you can't last your 12 hours of your job or your 10 hours of your job, plus come home, plus still take care of the family if there's extra people in the family. Others love it at lunch. They've kind of worked out with their jobs that they can take a full hour. So they immediately change and work out, do at least 30 minutes. Then they have 15 minutes to cool off, maybe clean up, shower if they can, or whatever.
Because it is tough. I used to do that. It is tough to put the tie back on
when you're still sweating,
Yeah,
especially
you're
in
still
Florida. And most of our bodies, once you start working out more, you tend to sweat more, which is a great healthy way your body's working properly. But it's very annoying when you're trying to get fancy clothes back on and you can't stop sweating, and you already showered and you still can't stop sweating. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. Every job is very different. So those that need to be back in business suits may want to actually do it before or after. It doesn't work out as well. For those that work from home digitally, or have more flexible hours, or just work in a different environment, like they do work outside, looking at different construction sites or whatever, then the clothes they're wearing are different. They're built for sweating. It's okay. So it just depends kind of your work environment. And the last option, of course, would be after work. For me personally, I could never go home first. If I go home first, it's done. I have home responsibilities. You're already thinking dinner. As soon as you sit down, you're like, oh, it feels so good. I don't want to get up. I want to watch a TV show and find
So you got to go
to eat.
straight
It's
to
done.
the gym.
So I personally never go home first. I need to immediately, okay, I'm done. It's 5 by 5:30. I have a class. I better get there. So sometimes that was helpful for some people that have a hard time making themselves go to the gym or something like that after. It's helpful to belong to a gym or belong somewhere that keeps you accountable. And secondly, that has a schedule that you're going to show up for. So you can't be late to that 5:30 class, because even if you're supposed to, I'm sorry, I got to go. I got an appointment at 5:30.
It'd be great if all of us could start off investing, put in the exact amount of money we need each month to meet our goals. Well, we all know that's not realistic, right? But what the roadmap does, what the plan does, is gives you goals to try to reach, right? So if we can start at point A and try to work up to getting to those goals over the next 3 to 5 years, right? It's much better doing that than just kind of blindly going into retirement and saying, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to put X amount of dollars away a month, and not really knowing what does that look like 20 years down the road, right? And that's what I find a lot of is a lot of clients who may have met briefly with a financial advisor or maybe started some type of IRA or 403B years ago. Really, that's all they did, right? They started contributing a little bit of money, but they never actually had a financial plan done for them.
Bring a past customer with you. Now, I'm not saying physically. You don't got to bring somebody physically with you, but a testimonial. Testimonials are so key into overcoming objections and your risks, because what I could say whatever about myself, and it would you believe me? No, I'm saying it about myself. But if I have a previous customer give me a great testimonial, that's proof. And that's like, whenever you hear about a restaurant, that new pizzeria over there, you go and look up reviews. You want to see what people have to say, or that shirt you found online. So the reason I brought up testimonials, it's very important because they are key into selling whatever it is you're trying to sell, whether it's yourself or product. Okay. So, and understand this, it's okay to give them kind of like a, not a script. Okay. But you can help guide them, because I've been in a position where like, can you give me a testimonial? And I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I'll say I had a great experience. It was wonderful, but it's so generic, but I really did have a good time. The reason I say it's okay to give them kind of like a guideline is because it is everything. You want to make sure it's truth. You don't exaggerate it. It better be facts about yourself and what they experienced. And it's just a way to help them, because a lot of people get stage fright or,
Sure.
nervous, even with the pen or paper. They're like, I don't even know what to say. So it kind of helps them. And I've done it and it really worked.
The best example for people that change their habits are alcoholics. See, because we have bad habits and alcoholics have a bad habit. But in alcoholics, you have to make that decision every day to not drink alcohol. You see, so the habit is the same thing. You're addicted to what you used to do. So when you change it, it's not going to be easy. But you have to make that decision every single day. So it was hard yesterday. It's going to be hard today. But don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about today. Just focus on doing the best you can today. Then today it's going to work for tomorrow, and then you do tomorrow. And as you repeat it, doing the same thing, then what happened, like an alcoholic can tell you, I've been clean for 30 years, but I am still an alcoholic. So in other words, you could say we are sinners or we are bad habits. So we could say, I'm a recoverer of bad habits.
I used to smoke. That's why I can relate to that story. I used to be a smoker, and then I had to make many conscious decisions to not smoke each day. And then it became the habit to where now I can be around people smoking and I don't even want one anymore. It's not even a physical need. So I guess that would be the same.
Absolutely.
The same thing.
Absolutely. I will put it this way. If you don't form good habit consciously, you subconsciously are going to create bad habits.
There's no such thing as perfection.
Right.
And so if in our mind's eye that we can say, hey, what does it mean to grow today? What does it mean to learn today? What does it mean to do my best just for today? And let perfection go out the window. I think we're going to be a little bit more content with where we land. And we realize that we're learning and we're growing, but a setback during the day because of how we interpret it doesn't mean we're a failure.
And it's not necessarily the pursuit of perfection. I don't claim to want to be perfect because, again, I realize that it's not even possible to get there. But success doesn't always necessarily mean perfection to me. It just means, just achievements, no matter how small, like you said, we celebrate those small achievements. I think it's just, there's always that next rung of the ladder. And
yes.
The ladder is never ending. I know it never ends. And so like the goal is not to reach perfection. It's just to keep moving. And so the stressors that I create, I know there's some stressors that just happen to you,
Sure.
as life. But sometimes you create stress. And I believe that I'm one of those people. This can't be healthy, but I do believe I'm one of those people who create certain stresses in my life just to keep pushing me along. So knowing that, I don't think that that's going to change about me. But what I would like to change, and I think a lot of people may agree, is not to have less stress, but to deal with that stress more effectively.
Sure.
And just getting in the right mindset to be able to deal with that, so it doesn't kill me.
Well, you know what? There are people, though, Craig, who do put too much stress on themselves.
Sure.
And so I call these the yes people, where it's really a boundary issue, where they really do have too much on their plate. I mean, even young parents, they feel like they've got to sign their kids up for every activity that comes along, and you're trying to keep up with your peer group who's doing the same thing with their kids. And it becomes a boundary issue. Are you saying yes to too many things? And so sometimes there are those people who honestly do just have too much. So a big part of stress reduction is, well, let me look at what's going on just for today. Is this too much?
And then finally, you have private health insurance plans. And I think that this is probably the best way to go if you qualify for them. And that's the key. Not everybody qualifies. So with private health insurance plans, these are going to be your off marketplace, right? So they're available all year long, not just November to December. So if you have no insurance and it's May and I don't want to wait until November. Of course you don't. You want to make sure that you're safe and protected and your kids are safe and protected, right? All year long. You can jump on one of these plans anytime throughout the year you want to. And what's really, really cool is a lot of times these plans, you can also change them throughout the year if you want to. So if you want to add dental or vision or, any of the supplemental coverages, you want to, just alter the plan a little bit, you don't have to wait till November to do it. You can do it anytime you want, as often as you want to. And another really cool thing is because we are in early June here when we're recording this, COVID's happening. A lot of people have lost their jobs. Well, you don't want to cancel your health insurance, right? Because this is a health pandemic. The last thing you want to do is cancel your health insurance, but your income just dwindled down a lot. Where do you save money? Well, with some of these private health insurance plans, since you can change them anytime throughout the year that you want to, as often as you want to, you can actually reduce the benefit levels, the payout levels, and that will also reduce your premium. So you can save money by just reducing the coverages without actually getting rid of your coverage completely. It's gotten to the point where people don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's taboo, because if I disagree with you or if I disagree with a policy that has to do with race, that makes me racist. Everything's racist these days. Yeah. Everything's racist. Mm-hmm. And if we don't talk about it, it's nothing's going to change. We have to talk about it. We have to understand each other. And here's another point of that. And this does have to do with business. I mean, I think everything we're talking about does.
I agree.
Because racism obviously is present in the workplace and corporate America as well. I mean, you see that with the CEOs that are, in their positions and the lack of diversity in that area. So it does exist. How do we get to the point to where we can openly discuss these issues and somebody like myself can ask somebody like you, right? We're different people. We have different backgrounds. You got a different story than I've got. I want to understand your story, but I don't want to be offensive when I'm asking for your story, because I don't want you to be like, are you only asking me that question because I'm Black? My answer is yes, I am, because if you weren't Black and you didn't have your heritage and your experiences in life of being Black, I mean, you can't understand me as a white guy. I mean, you don't know what it's like being white, a white male, especially these days. Being a white male, that's like, oh my gosh, But I want to be able to talk to somebody like yourself and ask questions without feeling guilty. I shouldn't have to feel guilty for being my color anymore, and you should feel guilty for being yours. But now we're sanitizing everything so that one small germ you come in contact with is going to make you sick.
Yeah,
and you're not building an immunity. And my wife's experiencing this because she's a teacher. She went back to school yesterday. And this hasn't been a big topic in our household. It has kind of changed how I'm viewing the whole situation with coronavirus because of this situation. She's going to go back into a classroom where you're in a confined space. There is no, you have the air conditioners, but other than that, there's no circulation of air. It's not like you can have the windows open down here when it's 95 degrees outside. No. So you are in a confined space, or the school buses. Yeah. They can't keep 6 feet apart in a school bus. It's not possible. So you have to keep them 6 foot apart in the classroom. But they're sitting next to each other on the school bus without that. And what happens in between classes? You got 3 or 4 minutes there where they're all going to be playing with each other. You can't. It's not possible. You hope
that they're going to be playing with each other, because some of the scenarios that I've been reading about what's going to happen, these poor children, neurologic development happens at play. It happens when you're discovering your environment. Your immunity gets a workout when you're discovering your environment. And if that is all taken away from kids, I'm fearful for their neurologic development. I'm fearful for their immunologic development. I'm fearful for their social development. How do you learn to share and to get along if you're in isolation? You stay in your square, I'll stay in mine.
And depression. There's going to be, and I know that's a topic right now, and I know that's the push to get students back in school. It's not just about moving on, because there is a risk. And I don't think that they're saying that there's not a risk. I just think that they're saying that the risk of getting coronavirus is so much less than the risk of not going back to school and having the mental issues that it may cause, the depression, the isolation. Humans are made to interact.
We are.
And that's why you have the horrible stories of, solitary confinement, in prisons or in the military. Your mind does very bad things to you when you're by yourself.
Yes.
And if you're somebody who's already battling depression, it just got 10 times worse. Anybody who's in sales, if you've done it for any amount of time, depending upon what industry you're in or what company you're with, it doesn't take long to know what the objection is going to be, right? If you do cold calls, I don't care what business you're in. If you do a cold call, 99.9% of the time, your response on the other end of the line is going to be, no thanks, click.
If you even get a no thanks, you're the click. Yeah.
Or it's going to be, no thanks, I'm not interested. If you know what the objection is going to be before you make the call, be prepared for that objection.
Yes, exactly what you just said. Be prepared. Try your best.
I want to personally thank all of you who have supported our show, and I hope that you've gained some insight into the many subjects we have touched upon this year. Whether it was social media marketing tips, long-term financial advice, or maybe more on the personal side with controlling your mindset or dealing with stress more productively, we aim to assist with your business success, but more importantly, your personal success as well. We look forward to future episodes coming back with Season 2 in February 2021. Till next time.